Okay. Hello, y'all. I am a little bit early. I like to come in early and try and take care of any kind of technical difficulties or anything like that early. First of all, let me close that other window. We'll start in about 5 minutes at 4 o'clock. I am going to go ahead and share out the live stream right now so that when 4 o'clock comes, we can just jump right in and get started. Talk amongst yourselves. I wish that I could play some music or something, but that's copyrighted. You know what, y'all? I actually make music in GarageBand, and if I'm pretty good, if I do say so myself. So maybe next year, um, for the book club, I'll be able to. I'll just make some music, and then when I come in early, we can just do that. Okay, so let me go on and share this really quickly. Yes, it's telling me to share, and I would love to share. Share with everybody. Hang on. This is weird. Write a post, sure. Write a post, and we're going to share with all my friends. Hey, y'all, come and watch. That's not what I want to say. Hold on. Oh, that also reminds me I need to close that door because I get distracted. Hello, person who is watching. We're going to get started in about 5 minutes, actually, closer to 4 now. Hey, y'all. We are about to start talking about the book, The Deepest Well by Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. It's discussing the adverse childhood experiences, how they can affect your health, and what you can do about that. Come on over to the page and join us. Okay, great. I'm looking at my phone. There's captions now. That is so wonderful for people who are, I'm sorry, there's a flag. For people who are deaf and hard of hearing. Also for people whose English is their second language. It's really, really helpful as well. I watch a lot of TV and videos and whatnot with the captions on because I don't know. I just like doing that. Also, sometimes I miss things, and so it's helpful if I can read it. Okay, so I'm gonna pop over here real quick and shut the door so that I'm not distracted, and I'll be right back. Okay, let's see. Let me make sure to get all of the things that I need. My questions. That's coming up next. My prop, which is the book. Oh, hello, second viewer. So happy that you are here. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes here. Let me see to make sure that I have comments on so that I can make sure that everybody is being responded to and paid attention to as well. Okay, I think we have everything. Do I need to invite anybody? I'll announce that in a minute. And we'll get started here in just a sec. I hope that I can be heard. Oh, hold on one second, y'all. Let me look at my mic real quick. Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. Let's see. Do I have all the things I need? Oh. Okay, I think everything's good. Let me just put this over here so I can keep an eye on it in case I need to. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the book club. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, replay viewers. I'm so happy that you took the time to watch this video. Today on the book club, we are going to be talking about The Deepest Well by Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. Actually, I believe she is the Surgeon General for California now. The state, I think that's what the title is, Surgeon General. I think that's what the title is. Whatever it is, she's the head of it now in California. So thank you all so much for joining me today for our book discussion on The Deepest Well by Dr. Nadine Burke Harris. As always, hey, Paula, how are you? Yes, Paula, please stay. I'm so happy that you're here. I might give some spoilers away, but really it's a fascinating book. It's super, super fascinating. You know what, too, Paula? I'm sorry that you didn't hear about this sooner, but you know what? Let me do this real quick. I'm going to put my my live stream up here. Not my live stream, pardon me, but the newsletter. There we go. Sign up for the newsletter. I send one out probably twice a month with the books. And every time I put the books for the whole year, October is the last book that we'll be doing for this year. But I put all the books that we're discussing for this year. I also include a syllabus, basically, any kind of interviews with the author of the book, discussion questions, background information, just so you know what you're getting into when you do a deep dive. But yes, this is a wonderful, wonderful book. It's also available in print form, and it is available in audiobook form on the Libby app. And just FYI, Libby has done some really cool things with their app. It's now available on desktop as well. Libby, it used to be Overdrive and it didn't translate very well, but it's doing much better now. Anyway, we'll get into more of that later. So I'm just going to read the back of the book to give you a synopsis of what the book is about and what you can expect when you read it. Okay. Dr. Nadine Burke Harris was already known as a crusading physician delivering targeted care to vulnerable children. But it was Diego, a boy who had stopped growing after a sexual assault, who galvanized her journey to uncover the connections between toxic stress and lifelong illnesses. The stunning news of Burke Harris's research is just how deeply our bodies can be imprinted by ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences like abuse, neglect, parental addiction, mental illness, and divorce. Childhood adversity changes our biological systems. Those with higher ACE scores have greater health risks over the course of a lifetime. For anyone who has faced a difficult childhood or who cares about the millions of children who do, the fascinating scientific insight and innovative acclaimed health interventions in The Deepest Well represent represent vitality, important hope for preventing lifelong illnesses for those we love and for generations to come. So, like I said, this book is available in print form from the library and also an audiobook. I would recommend the audiobook because Nadine Burke Harris is the one that reads it, and she's a really good reader. I don't know if she took voice acting classes or if she's just done so much public speaking that she knows how to keep an audience engaged. I'm not sure, but she did a great job. So anyway, let's just break down how the book is organized. First off, the title, The Deepest Well, comes from a case history or case study of Dr. John Snow back in, let me see if I can get the right, during the time of the Black Death. They were having a cholera epidemic in this town in England. And I want to say it was in the 1800s, but don't quote me on that, y'all, because I don't remember the exact date. Anywho, the way people would diagnose things back then before we learned about microbiology and germs and all that stuff is they would smell things. And the worse something smelled, the more likely somebody was going to be sick or get infections or die. And so there was a cholera outbreak in this town in England, and Dr. John Snow was like, I think it's coming from the well. I think it's coming from this well. And if we just take the handle off the well, people won't keep getting cholera. Well, no one really believed Dr. John Snow because the well didn't stink. It didn't smell like, oh, I forgot to mention people in back in the day in England were throwing their uh, uh, chamber pots, just throwing them outside the window, no sewage system or anything. And so what was happening was that the fecal matter was getting into the water supply system and it was giving people cholera. And Dr. John Snow was right, but no one believed him. He actually had to end up doing it himself. He took the handle off the well so that people would stop drinking infected well water, and lo and behold, cholera epidemic gone. But because the way they were diagnosing things based off of smell alone, a lot of people died before they realized, oh yeah, he is kind of right. Anyway, so that's where the title of the book comes from, The Deepest Well. And it's connecting all the adverse childhood experiences and how left untreated, how it can permeate your whole life, how it can affect everything from your health, education, marital status, work life, education, if I didn't say that already. Anywho, very fascinating book. So the way the print book is organized, it's broken down into 4 parts. It's discovery, diagnosis, prescription, and revolution. Kind of like, like if you're going to the doctor and if you are getting diagnosed. So also, please remember to share the live stream out. I'm going to go back to that one. Hold on one sec. And like I was saying earlier, join the newsletter so that you can know what we're going to be reading next. So anywho, like I said, this book was super, super fascinating. So we're just going to jump into a few questions to get the lay of the land of the book, okay? So what did you already know about this book's subject before you read the book? Also, if anyone would like to join in on the live discussion and appear with me on screen, please let me know. I'll send you a link and you can just hop on in too. So the reason why I picked this book, I just think it's super fascinating, is because there are a lot of people that I work with that children and people and adults and everyone that I work with that are experiencing adverse childhood experiences that affect their health. A lot of people that I know personally as well. And the connection, once you make it, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how you can then begin to address these health illnesses and whatnot. But first you have to make the connection. So I knew based off of personal experience with people in my family and myself that there was a connection between things that happened to you in trauma and childhood and your stress levels. I happen to have rheumatoid arthritis, and that condition is genetic, but it's also can be aggravated by stress. And when your body has a lot of stress, you produce a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol causes inflammation and tells everything to hurt. So anytime you hear a disease and it has the word itis at the end of it, like hepatitis, bursitis, arthritis, it means inflammation of something. And chronic inflammation is probably one of the largest health concerns in America today. It can cause everything from high blood pressure, high cholesterol, asthma, arthritis, diabetes, pancreatitis, all kind of different things. So that's why we really need to get it under control. Now, before I started working at the library, I was a nutrition and body care manager of the largest independent health food store in Texas. And I did that for about 13 years. And I am not a doctor. I don't play one on TV or on the internet. But we did get a lot of training. I was flown around the world to, learn about different vitamins and things like that. And the one thing that I noticed with people over and over again is I could get them on the right eating plan according to what their doctor told them to do and what we had at the store and get all the right supplements. But it's like a three-legged stool. There were still some things that were out of balance. So they could be eating right, they could be taking the right pills, but their health illness would either remain the same. Sometimes it would get better, but there'd still be some issues. And what I slowly started to realize over time is that that whole phrase, mind, body, spirit, it's really a true statement. And in this book, she talks about 6 different things that you can do to help with adverse childhood experiences. And one of them definitely is getting more sleep and eating better. And sorry, I'm looking for it in here. Eating better, getting enough rest, and things like that. And so I noticed that when I address those with people, asking them certain things like, do you have a therapist? Maybe you should get one and go and talk to someone about what you're dealing with on a personal level. But I just anecdotally, like I said, I'm not a health professional in any way, but I noticed it because of the environment that I worked in, that a lot of people's stress and illnesses were related to things that had happened to them that were quite traumatic. So, what I knew before I read this book was that trauma would make you sick. That things that happened to you in the past, if you did not deal with them in a healthy way, would manifest themselves in your body in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, in this book, they go over how that can happen. Asthma is mentioned quite a bit in here. And it's not just due to your environment, but it can be due to stress. Whether that stress was something that happened a long time ago, or something that is currently happening, or something that happens in the present is triggering a past experience. So it's super, super important. Another thing that she talks about in this book is creating protocols so that we're screening everyone as early as possible. So, for instance, y'all know, like when babies are born in hospitals, they automatically get a bilirubin test so that they can check for jaundice. So, bilirubin is produced by your liver, and if there's too much build up of it in the body, then your skin turns yellow and the whites of your eyes turn yellow. And it usually happens with babies because their immune system isn't quite online yet, so to speak. And so what they'll do now is they'll put babies, I'm going to say they put them in tanning beds. It's not tanning beds, but it looks like it. They put the little goggles on the babies, and the baby's there, and they're getting a whole bunch of UV lights to help basically jumpstart their immune system. So the reason why we do that now, they just prick the little baby's heel. The test cost about $1. The reason why we do that now, universally broad spectrum, is because before people knew about jaundice, but they would just do an eyeball test, and look and see if the baby was, too yellow or whatnot. The problem with that is that one woman's child in particular was incredibly jaundiced, and she kept taking the baby to the doctor, right? Within the first week or so of the baby being born, and they kept telling her, no, it's fine, babies are normally jaundiced, it's okay. And she was really concerned. The issue is if there is too much of a buildup of bilirubin in your system and it crosses the blood-brain barrier, it can cause severe brain damage that will last a lifetime. And that's what happened to this woman's child. And so she basically took it upon herself, created a crusade so that this would not happen to anyone else's child, because she loves her son, but he has brain damage, and it could have been prevented because she did what she was supposed to do. She kept going to the doctor and saying, something's wrong. Something's wrong with my baby. He's very yellow. And they didn't run the test. And the test cost $1, y'all. It cost $1. And now her son has to deal with a lifetime of illnesses and brain damage and medical bills and whatnot, because no one was listening to her. And it's really unfortunate. And in fact, her daughter was born and was jaundiced too, and got that test right away. in the hospital before she left, they took care of it. So she basically was trying to spare anyone else the experience that she went through with her child. And that happens quite a bit. It's really unfortunate, but somebody has to get really sick or die sometimes for changes to come about. Y'all know back in the day, when I was a little kid, back in our day, when I was a little kid, children's coats came with those ties around the neck. And I don't think they make them that way anymore. And part of the reason is because one woman's child was had their coat on and they were going down a slide and the tie got caught and it choked the baby and the baby died. And so she was like, we got to get rid of these things. And so that's what happened. So anyway, sometimes that happens. Great tragedy occurs to people. And then the rest of us benefit so that it doesn't happen to anyone else, especially if it's a crusading parent behind that horrible tragedy. Okay, so anywho, second question. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. Let me go back to the comments. Make sure that I am not ignoring anyone. Okay, let me double check here real quick. On Facebook. Okay. I see nothing. Okay. So, second question. What new things did you learn? Okay, so one of the things that I learned with Dr. Burks Harris is she was trying to raise money to study these adverse childhood experiences. And this is maybe about 2000, 2002, somewhere around there. And I did not understand all the protocols that went into or all the political stuff, behind the scenes stuff that went into developing protocols like the whole testing for bilirubin and jaundice and whatnot. It really took a very, very long time. She had the science, she had the data, she had all the things you needed, but she had to convince people. She had to create her own center and nonprofit organization to study these things. She would go to different conferences and talk to different experts in fields, and they were like, "Well, yeah, we totally believe you. So, what are you going to do with it? What are the protocols? How do we treat these things?" And she thought that they were the ones that were going to come up with the protocols, and they weren't. It was up to her. And the other thing that I learned about this book is that a lot of times the science has not caught up with some of the symptoms that people are experiencing in many different illnesses and ailments. And so it is up to doctors who are also honorary detectives to try and figure things out. And Dr. Nadine Burks Harris is better than Columbo and J.B. Fletcher and all the detectives rolled up in one, as far as I'm concerned, because she had things just tickling in the back of her mind, things that she read when she was in medical school and that she was remembering, would go back and research and try and figure out what she was seeing. So in the very first chapter, she mentions a child named Diego, and I talked about him on the back here, and he was not growing the way he should. He was far below his peers. And it turns out that Diego had been sexually assaulted by a family friend, and that's when his growth stopped. That's definitely an adverse childhood experience. And so because of him, she had been seeing a lot of these type of cases in her hospital. It was in Bayview, California, where her hospital is located, which is a working class neighborhood. And so because of him and all these other cases, he was like the push that she needed to really dig deep into this and try to figure out what was the connection. Why were his hormones acting the way they were? And so another thing that I found out from this book, hold on, let me make sure I'm not jumping the gun here. Another thing that I found out is, or learned, is that even when you have good intentions, you have the science to back everything up, you might run into some resistance from people in the community that you are trying to help. And I want to emphasize that ACEs don't just happen in poor or impoverished communities. It is everybody. Some communities, rich, wealthy communities, are just a lot better. They're better at hiding them because their reputations are on the line and they could lose their jobs and then they won't be rich anymore. But everybody, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of race, skin color, or whatever, across the board, people are experiencing trauma that affects their health. So, anywho, back to the question. They were trying to establish a center so that they could come up with protocols that would be universal worldwide to treat people to treat these adverse childhood experiences, or take that information and treat people's health concerns. And there's a community activist who was in opposition to her and to the whole idea of the center. And this woman was basically, I don't want to call her a grifter, but she was a grifter. And she was trying to get them to hire her as a community consultant so that she could quit nagging them and they could go on with their building of their center. Because they raised $4 million, and people thought that was a lot of money, but with the rates, the realty rates and whatnot in California, that wasn't, it was barely enough money for them to buy the building, let alone pay the staff. And I think that sometimes people may have experienced this in their own community. If you have certain initiatives, you'll see pillars of the community who maybe oppose it, or they're always there, acting on behalf of the community in a way, but more so on behalf of themselves. I think that's all I'm going to say about that, because I really don't want to spend a bunch of time talking about someone who is standing in the way of the health of children and people around them. So one of the reasons why these adverse childhood experiences and trauma are so important that we catch them early is because it increases your likelihood of experiencing certain illnesses. There's a test that you can take. It's called the ACEs test. And actually, it's in this book. And you can just Google ACE test. But it is in, what page is it? It's 10 questions. And you ask them, the first 5 questions have to do with your own trauma. And then not the first 5. 5 of the questions have to deal with your own trauma, and then 5 of the questions deal with trauma you may have witnessed from others. Hold on one second, so I see if I can find it in here. Anywho, it's in this book. If you get this book, then you can take the test just by looking at the book and scoring yourself. But you can also just Google ACE test, and you can do it that way as well. But ACE study findings. In comparison to those reporting no ACEs, individuals with a score of 4 or higher on the ACE test have significantly greater odds of reporting ischemic heart disease, any kind of cancer. Pardon me, there is a fly in here, y'all, and they really want to be my friend, and I just don't want the fly in my face. Any kind of cancer, let's see, chronic bronchitis or emphysema. It's a 3-point, what is this? Sorry. Yes, chronic stroke, diabetes, attempting suicides, 2 or more weeks of depressed mood in the year, using drugs, smoking, sexually transmitted diseases, all kind of different things. And it's just, it's really quite overwhelming. Sorry, I was looking for something else, the different study finding. But anywho, it increases your risks of contracting all kind of different diseases and things the higher your ACE score. And I also want to make something very clear is that just because someone has a high ACE score does not mean that they're going to get all these diseases. A high ACE score can also be buffeted. Yeah, I think that's the word. Buffeted by having really good communal relationships with friends and family and people in the community. You can do different things like eating better, getting enough rest, taking care of being more mindful. She mentions meditation several times in this book because it helps with the brain's plasticity. The reason why we're trying to catch this trauma in childhood is because when you're younger, your brain is more placid, so that the synapses and the different cells, or for lack of a better term, more easily programmable. As we age, our brain becomes less plastic, or there's less plasticity, so it's harder to reprogram the brain once you have experienced trauma. So that's why it's important to catch it when you're young. Also, you can give those people the tools that they need to mitigate some of these negative things that I mentioned earlier. So that's why it's also very important as well. Okay. 1 second while I check the comments, y'all, really quick. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, go ahead and leave me a comment so that I can answer. Also, if you are watching this on the Lovely from the Library Facebook page, please remember to like the page. That really helps me out with the algorithm. Hey, algorithm, how you doing? And lets Facebook know to share this video out to more people. And if you really think that someone might like this live stream, go on and share it with them. Share the page as well. Okay. Doesn't seem like we have any comments. Okay. That's cool, y'all. Okay. So, oh, Paula says, good way to put it. Very diplomatic, but true. Okay. I think you're talking about when I call that lady a grifter, maybe, or something else. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm trying to be, like you said, I was trying to be diplomatic. I appreciate that. Okay. Oh, let me put that up there. Let me see if I'm doing this right. Nope, I am not doing this right. There we go. Okay, good. All right, so let's see. Where are we? Hello, Fly. So, one of the things that she's talked about in this book that I also found incredibly fascinating is how or actually not fascinating, but some of the things that the ACEs test that doesn't address but can contribute to trauma is chronic ongoing stress. So she uses a metaphor of living in the forest and being attacked by a bear, or knowing that bears are around. And so the more you have to deal with the bears, the more stressed you're going to be. And it's a really good metaphor because she says some parts of the forest, the bear is violence, or the bear is racism, or the bear is a parent with mental illness, or a family member who has addiction issues. The bear can also be poverty. For some people, if you live too close to all these things, there's just bears everywhere. Bears all the way down. And so you're in a constant state of chronic stress over and over and over. And so what that tends to do is it also affects your immune system and its ability to respond to things properly. And she went into these schools in different neighborhoods. Actually, yes, it was her and one of her colleagues. And what she realized is, I'm jumping ahead of myself because I really like this book. And when I get excited about books, my brain's like, there was a part of the book when they were trying to study the effects of 9/11 or September the 11th on children. They had all these different maps and maps of the children who are experiencing stress and the proximity to the two towers and whatnot. What the test and results came back was that the children who lived farther away from the two towers were experiencing more stress than the children who lived closer. And they really thought that they were going to come back with the opposite results. What they found out was that the children who lived closer to the two towers lived in a more affluent area. They had more resources and accesses to those resources to help buffer those stresses. The children who lived farther away had less access and less resources, so they did not have as big of a buffer of their stress. Their parents didn't either, and that's a key component as well. If you have experienced adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, I'm just going to say that. If you've experienced ACEs and your parents also have experienced ACEs, then you could be responding to their stress levels because how you're in that environment and they're raising you. And if you don't have a buffer for that as a child and they didn't, then those unhealthy coping mechanisms are passed down to you, and then you pass them down to your children. And unless somebody realizes what's going on, intervenes, and gets help, so that you can develop healthier coping mechanisms. So what am I saying here? So that's one thing that I think is really, really important to remember and mention, is that sometimes people pathologize poverty, and it is not poverty is a symptom of a greater problem. It is not, oh, it's just those poor people over there. It is that poverty cuts off access to a lot of different tools and resources that would help mitigate some of these negative circumstances. And that's another thing in this book too, that some of the doctors, because like I said, Dr. Burks Harris was really trying to get the word out and get people to adopt the protocols that she had been seeing were beneficial for folks. And some of the doctors were saying that the protocols that they established and the things that she and her team were saying was going to were saying that Black and brown children were brain damaged and that they were pathologizing poverty. And what she found out later, as how she addressed it, was that people were not understanding. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. People were not understanding that the ACEs were not just in poor neighborhoods. And that's kind of how it was being spun in the media as well. And so she ended up, there's so much in this book. She met Kamala Harris, y'all. She met Kamala Harris when Kamala was still a senator in California. And she was talking about how charismatic and convincing Kamala was, because she needed to talk to Kamala so that she could get access to different experts and raise money for her new clinic so that they could develop these protocols. And Kamala loaned her different experts from her cabinet so that she could do that. Kamala was also there, I believe, when she raised that money for their center. So was John Legend. And Dr. Nadine Burks Harris talks about how she got to sit next to John Legend at the dinner. But anywho, what was I? Sorry, I got off on I remember now. Pathologizing poor people and Black and brown people. One of the things that she was discussing, because like I said, the woman is phenomenal, and she is a networking genius. And so she was networking with a lot of these power women. That's not the right word, but the circle of women would come and monthly, and they would have a dinner where they would discuss the projects they were working on. They would brainstorm with each other about any kind of issues they were bumping up against. Maybe people they could, be put in contact with other folks who could help them achieve different goals that they were working on. And the way she describes it, there's a neighborhood in California, I think it's in Palo Alto. I believe that's how you say it. Y'all, please forgive me, because sometimes I don't say words right. Yay, dyslexia. Anywho, these were definitely very affluent people, very affluent neighborhood. And a lot of them too had experienced had high ACE scores. And one of the women were talking, they were talking about drug addictions, alcohol. Like this one woman was talking about how her father was a doctor and a raging alcoholic. And it was brutal at home, but he was really good at hiding it. And so part of the message that Dr. Burke Harris was trying to get across is that everybody experiences ACEs. It doesn't matter how poor you are or how rich you are or how much melanin you have or don't, poor babies. Not having melanin. Well, actually everybody has melanin except for people with albinism, but that's a whole nother tangent. Anywho, and the reason why I keep emphasizing this is because, like I was saying, a lot of times people are it's easier for them to hide those kind of traumas and put it behind closed doors. And that's what was happening in a lot of these wealthier neighborhoods. And so the data was kind of skewed. And we want to emphasize the screening for ACEs as early as possible because it does affect everyone. And when you do it across the board, you're able to gather more information to help more people, but also it gets rid of that us versus them kind of thing. The people, human beings in general, are very tribal. A lot of people might not recognize it, but people are incredibly tribal. And so what happens is people might recognize, yes, everyone experiences trauma, but my community is experiencing more trauma than yours, and we need more help, instead of connecting everything. Another thing that I really like in this book is that Dr. Harris, Burke Harris, is really, really good about emphasizing it took a whole community for them to not a whole community, but interdisciplinary help. It's not just her, it's not just doctors. They had to involve social workers to help with some of the social issues like homelessness, abuse, addiction, what else? Just, so that part was brought in. Oh, it's called integrated health. That's what I'm trying to say, y'all. Integrated health. So a lot of the terms and phrases that maybe some of us take for granted now, 20 years ago, that was not a thing. People, if you told them that you wanted it to take an integrated health approach 20 some odd years ago, they would look at you like you're some kind of nasty old dirty hippie, or you're too woo-woo, you're way out there. Come to find out, mind, body, spirit is really a thing. And it's like a three-legged stool. And if one leg is gone, it's wonky. You're off. You're out of balance. Those three things connect all your health. And the way Dr. Burke Harris, the approach she took to helping her patients is the way that she works in and of herself. She brought in, like I said, in that clinic, they had psychologists, they had social workers, they had people to teach children how to do yoga and how to meditate, and really just taking a whole integrated approach, because like she says in the book, the deepest well connects them all. And so, it's just, I think one of the things that I like also about this book a whole bunch is that it doesn't just focus on the problem. It focuses on solutions to the problem. And side note, I am a solution-oriented type of a person. I have friends, go on now, Fly, go on now. Friends and family, I have had to tell them, if you just want to vent with me, please tell me that before you start telling me this thing that happened to you, because my brain immediately starts looking for solutions and how we can fix things. And I understand the need to vent. It's really important that you don't just let things like that sit in your heart and in your soul and fester, because that will make you sick. But sometimes people don't want you to try to fix things, and they don't need you to fix things. They just need you to be quiet and listen. So you need to tell people that ahead of time, because you might be talking to somebody like me, and I'm gonna have like 10 solutions by the time you're done telling me your story. And really, you just want to be like, that sucks. And so, but the thing that I really like about this book is that she does address the problem. And then she's like, and this is what we can do about it. And I like that approach because we do need to do something about it, because people go out into the world and they interact with you and me on all kind of levels: school teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, people who work in libraries, ooh, I'm like, sorry, y'all. I'm like, anywho, people who work in libraries and whatnot. It's really, really important because it does affect your health. And in this country, we've got a lot of health issues going on as well, but that's why sometimes people, they can't pay their medical bills. So we need to deal with that kind of thing as well, too. Anywho, it's just a really, really fascinating book. We're at the 40 mark minute. Let me double check and make sure that I'm not missing anyone's comments or questions or anything like that. Let's see. This is a very good question, maybe to start to wrap things up on, perhaps. It says, what do you think about the author's research? Was it easy to see where the author got their information and were their sources credible? Yes, obviously, yes. Like I said, I'm flabbergasted with some of the pushback that she received from the medical community. One of the things that she talks about in this book is when she was speaking about ACEs, that the resistance that she was getting from doctors was just them not wanting to change the way things are done. Them saying that we're the experts over here, so why do we need to talk to teachers? She was explaining to them that a lot of referrals to her clinic were from teachers wanting to put kids on ADHD medication. And she said that we needed to get in the schools to talk to teachers about this, because a lot of times ADHD is a symptom of something else. It is a symptom of perhaps an ACE. So if they do have ADHD, there could be other underlying circumstances that we need to address. And so her approach was to address the cause and not necessarily the symptom only, which happens quite a bit. Let's see what else. Some of my other things, like I said, is the way she was talking about how a lot of times people were pathologizing or just making ACEs out to be something that only affected poor people or Black and brown people. And she's like, well, what about the white people in Appalachia and rural Appalachia? What about the children in China and all these other places? And I'm so glad that she did that, because like I said earlier, sometimes people are really good at hiding their trauma and the things that they experience, especially if they have money and they're wealthy and they look put together. They don't look like they would have these kind of problems. There's a story of a woman in this book who is looks like a Nordic supermodel, according to Dr. Burks Harris. And she is very well put together, very smart, very analytic. Started her own company when she was 21, dropped out of Stanford to go start a company, and she's very successful. You wouldn't think like that anyone like her had any ACEs, but she did. And so did her 7-year-old son. And this is the woman is part of that group that I was talking about earlier, that Dr. Burks, the group of those amazing women out there, the movers and shakers, women with a cause. That's what we'll call them, women with a cause. And a lot of those women started talking about all the ACEs that they had. And I really do think that that's important to acknowledge. Another thing too, because I took this test a long time ago, I'm not going to tell y'all my ACE score. Well, I don't really care. Depending on how you answer the question, I'm either a 4 or a 5, and that's pretty. Sorry, y'all, that's the fly. That's high, but in my case, I know every time I get on this live stream, I got to mention my grandparents. I had 9 grandparents, y'all. I know y'all tired of me talking about my grandparents. That's too bad. That's too bad. And a reason why I emphasize them so much is because they're the reason why I am not sicker, why I don't have all these other things that could possibly happen to someone who has an ACE score like mine. Like I said, it's not as high as it could be. It's either a 4 or a 5, depending on how I answer. I'm going to just say 5 because there's a question on there and I'm like, I'm not sure about that. But actually I am sure it's 5. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, again, just because you have a high ACE score doesn't mean that you're going to develop any of the negative consequences from ACE score. Oh, let me read what Paula just typed out. Paula is saying, I've been just absorbing since I didn't read it. I'm already on hold for the audio for the library. I've read so much about Dr. Pushback. Yes. Read about Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis, the doctor who came up with the novel idea of hand washing. He stopped the childbirth death of women in his clinic almost to 100%, yet doctors told him he was crazy. Oh, okay. Oh, you know what, Paula? I think I have that book checked out still. I'm going to, when I get done with the live stream, I'm going to return it early and you can get started on it. I'm so glad that you're going to do the audio version because Dr. Nadine, it's in her own voice. And sometimes she'll slip into her Jamaican patois and it's beautiful to hear. So I will turn it in. Let me put that up so people can see what so people can see what you wrote. In case I was reading too quickly. But anywho, we have 15 minutes left. I'm going to make some announcements really quick. This is a really, really good book. Like I said, it focuses on solutions. It does address the problem, and then it focuses on solution. And there are 6 points in here that she talks about. Getting enough sleep, getting good nutrition, exercise, meditation, being mindful, and also having good, solid relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about with people in your community, friends, family, your neighbors. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. I was on a tangent. But those are the 6 things that she says that really can help mitigate a high ACE score. And what I was going to say is, like I said, my ACE score is 5, but I don't take any medications except for vitamin D. So no, I don't take any prescription medications. And part of the reason why I think, even though I have a high ACE score, is because I did have such good support from my community, my family, my friends. I never felt unloved. There's some other things I felt, but unloved was not one of them. Just to give you an example of what I mean by having support and knowing that you are cared for. I am 47 years old now, and I'm dyslexic. I did not find out that I was dyslexic until I was in college. Someone suggested that I go get tested. I started to realize that something was not quite right when I was a senior in high school. I was in gifted and talented classes, but it would always take me forever to finish classwork, like while we were in class. And I kept telling my teachers, I was like, something's wrong, y'all. And they were like, no, you're in gifted and talented classes. You're fine. You're smart. But I'm like, then why do I always finish last in class? Why does it always take me so much longer than everybody else? I never felt stupid. Part of the reason why I did not feel stupid is because all of my grandparents, my sisters, my mom, my dad, even people in the neighborhood would always say, good, there's Lovely. She's so smart. She's so smart. She likes to read. So the expectation for me was to be smart. The expectation for me was you're going to college. The expectation for me is you're going to make something out of your life. And I did. And so because I had all that support, despite living in a poor neighborhood, despite having dyslexia, despite not having access to the best schools, that kind of makes me mad for a lot of people because there's a whole bunch of geniuses just sitting in poor neighborhoods. And because they don't have access to good education, they can't, it's going to take them a little bit longer to get where they're trying to go. And that's frustrating because that's going to affect all of us too. But anywho, let me get off that soapbox. But because I had all that support, that's a large part of the reason why I don't have diabetes. I don't have heart problems. I had childhood asthma. I don't know more. I had my arthritis was really horrible when I was a kid and when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, but it's not anymore. Pause real quick. Y'all know why it's not anymore. For years, I would tell doctors, my knees hurt. And they're like, oh, it's just your rheumatoid arthritis. It's just your rheumatoid. And over and over. And I'm like, well, I'm doing what you're telling me to do. I'm taking the medicine you're telling me to take. I'm changing my diet. I exercise and my knees hurt. Y'all, I was just low in vitamin D. I needed more vitamin D. You know when I found that out? Is when I moved to Pueblo and I got a Black doctor. Her name is Dr. Bonjoko. I need to quit telling y'all my doctor name. It's hard for me to get into my doctor's appointment now. I'm just playing. Her name is Dr. Banjoko. She is the first person to ask me to test my vitamin D levels. And she's also the first doctor that I've ever had to ask me about my mental health. I'm pointing this out because she's a Black woman. She's from Nigeria. I think the only other Black doctor I've had my whole life was my gynecologist. Nobody else asked me about my mental health. Nobody else thought that maybe I should get tested for my vitamin D levels. Although 70% of Americans are deficient in vitamin D. And the more melanin, check that melanin, y'all, that you have, sometimes it can be really hard for you to absorb the rays from the sun. And especially since I lived in Texas, I was not trying to be outside in that Texas heat, exposing, 50% of my skin or whatnot. I was in the air conditioning. Thank you very much. I do it now because it's not nearly as hot in Pueblo or any part of Colorado as it is in Texas. Anywho, that is another thing that I noticed is that sometimes your health issues depend on a doctor asking the right question, depends on a doctor giving you the right test. And I don't recall if I was asked any ACE questions. I might have been when on the intake. But think about this. The last time you went to your doctor, or maybe if you have had your general practitioner for a while, when you were first a new patient with them, did they give you the ACE test? Did you have to answer certain questions about, adversity in your childhood? Because I'm not sure if those screening protocols are being done for adults as well. And they should be, because that does affect your health. It can be a great predictor of certain health issues that you might have. And I really do think that everybody should be getting assessed for ACEs, just like people have to get their cholesterol test yearly and breast exams. Ouch. But you got to see breast exam, screening for cancers. It's a lot easier to do preventative health care than dealing with what comes on the other side of once you have already been diagnosed. And in fact, it costs a lot less too. And it's better for everybody involved. Anywho, I'm on my soapbox, y'all. But this was such a wonderful book. It's very eye-opening, very insightful. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Let me make sure I answered all my questions. I think so. Like I said, my favorite part of the book is the solution. And I think too, just knowing that why you are the way you are could be linked to something that happened to you in childhood. And now you can correct it, or you have the tools to correct it, is even before you start any protocol. If you have a high ACE score and knowing that you're not the one that's broken, understanding that you might be responding in ways, or know why you're responding in certain ways, can really help you get the help that you need, and everybody else around you too. Because like I keep saying, there are millions of people just walking around in America alone who have high ACE scores, but don't understand. They don't understand why they respond the way they do to certain situations. They don't understand that stress can make them sick, and what to do about it. And this book offers a myriad of solutions. I think that's the right word I wanted to use. Bayview Hunters Point. That's the name of the community and her patients. It's just really, really awesome. Anywho, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Wonderful book. Get the audio, but y'all gonna have to wait. Y'all gonna have to wait till Paula's done with it, because she's up next. Okay, so speaking of which, we have just a few minutes left. Let's talk about what we're going to be reading for next month. As y'all know, I like to alternate between a fiction and a nonfiction book. And next month, which is going to be the Yeah, Paula's laughing because she, like I said, Paula's got up next, so y'all gonna have to wait. Take your time, Paula. We got plenty of print copies of these books, so y'all can get a print copy. So y'all don't so if you want to read the book, get the print copy. Okay. So anyway, so next month our book is going to be Witchmark. It's a fiction book by C.L. Polk. In an original world reminiscent of Edwardian England, in the shadow of a world war, cabals of noble families use their unique magical gifts to control the fates of nations, while one young man seeks only to live a life of his own. Magic marked Miles Singer for suffering the day he was born, doomed either to be enslaved to his family's interests or to be committed to a witches' asylum. He went to war to escape his destiny and came home a different man, but he couldn't leave his past behind. The war between Aelin and Lanier leaves men changed, strangers to their friends and family. But even after faking his own death and reinventing himself as a doctor at a cash-strapped veterans hospital, Miles can't hide what he truly is. When a fatally poisoned patient exposes Miles' healing gift and his witch mark, he must put his anonymity and freedom at risk to investigate his patient's murder. To find the truth, he'll need to rely on the family he despises and on the kindness of the most gorgeous man he's ever seen. So this book is a trilogy, and the library does have all three. Like the first one is called Witchmark, and we will be discussing that on. Hold on while I get my little handy dandy calendar because I don't remember what day it is. The 28th. It's going to be October the 28th at 4 p.m. Please make sure to, here, I'm going to put this newsletter thing up here real quick again. Sign up for the newsletter. Copy that little link there, click on it or something. I don't think I made it clickable, but you could copy it. Hang on, maybe I should not make a ticker. Anywho, I'll put it in a link down here too, because I don't know how to stop this. Let's just show it. Let's see if I hit hide and then I hit show. I think I did make a ticker. Okay, sign up for the newsletter. That way you get all the extra wonderful things that I put in. I won't be sending that out until probably Saturday, maybe Monday. Anywho, and I'm going to put it in on the Lovely from the Library Facebook page anyway. You just won't get the syllabus unless you sign up later because I send it out twice. Okay. Thank y'all so much for taking the time to hang out with me and listen to me wax poetically about this book. It is such a good book. I think everybody should read this. If you work with children, you need to read this. If you're just a person on planet Earth, you need to read this book. It really will help you understand a lot. And the main thing that I really like too is a lot of the solutions are very doable. Like she clearly talks about meditation. I forgot to tell y'all that too. Well, I've mentioned this before, but my mother converted to Buddhism when I was 6 years old. So I've been meditating since I was 6 years old. And at my big age of 47, I really think that also helped mitigate me having such a high ACE score. I was exposed to meditating when I was 6, and I loved going to our temple. And that's how I also know that people from all walks of life can experience ACEs because of being exposed to so many people. I've mentioned this before, but the temple we went to was like a mini UN nation. You think of any ethnicity or person, wherever they're from, we had them. All of us. Whenever we would go, it was like, oh my goodness. And I ate food from all over the world and whatnot. Anywho, let me quit bragging about my my wonderful childhood religious experience. Anywho, y'all, it's been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. I hope to see you again next month on the 28th at 4 p.m. when we're talking about Witchmark. In the meantime, keep popping back onto Lovely from the Library Facebook page because, as you know, we have weekly discussions about the book that we're reading every month. And also post about things like All Pueblo Reads and different programs and whatnot that we are having here at Lamb Library. All right, I will see y'all later. Have a very good rest of your day. Bye.